Hey guys, I'm coming to you on this Saturday night. Well, I'm choosing to spend my Saturday night just wanting to talk to you guys about some more things. The thing of it is I could be out doing anything. Please do believe that I have options of what I could be doing. For all the coon haters that really feel like I don't, you're silly. But anyways, not to talk about what I should be doing. Anyways, I came on here really to talk about something that's important. So I did the video and I mentioned primarily the fact that LeBron felt like he wasn't obligated to speak out on the black community. What I noticed is a lot of people that put comments on my video also thought that LeBron wasn't obligated to speak on behalf of the black community. I noticed that this tends to be a common thought process among a lot of black people, not just mainstream black people, but also a lot of celebrities and black people in general feel as though no black celebrity is obligated to speak against issues that affect the black community, primarily the issue of white officers killing unarmed black men. I really feel like this is a detrimental attitude to have. I don't understand why there is a common thought process, and it appears that only the black community and us in the black community seem to think that we don't have an obligation to our group. This is a very detrimental attitude to have, and it's one of the things that's actually keeping us enslaved. Because please believe, even though we don't have shackles, again, and I'll say this and I'll keep saying it, we still are mentally enslaved. So this attitude that we aren't obligated or that a celebrity isn't obligated is actually very detrimental. There actually was a time back in the day where athletes actually did feel like they had an obligation to their community. Think about Muhammad Ali. He always spoke out on social issues that affect the black community. He was very pro-black. He was very vocal about his opinion, in terms of civil rights and just issues that affected, mostly racial issues that affected the black community. So this is something that literally in the recent 20 years where black people just decided, they no longer have an obligation to the black community, especially our prominent black celebrities, because it's not just me that's wondering why it is that the majority of your black celebrities that are out today aren't really speaking on any of these issues. Even, the church that's being supported solely by the black community. Even a lot of these pastors like TD Jakes and Creflo Dollar, the only time that they speak out is to ask for more money to put into their church, but you won't ever see them publicly speaking out on any of these issues. I really feel like after, all of our athletes back in the day, like Muhammad Ali, I feel like after, white supremacy and this is just an institution as far as I'm concerned. It's a lot of your political figures. But right after they saw that these black athletes were also becoming activists, I really feel like they felt that it was a direct and immediate threat to their agenda, and they decided to put a stop to it. And now I really feel like that's why you have the LeBron James and the other celebrities that really feel like they don't have an obligation to speak out on these issues. These are the things that I think is really detrimental to that, because black celebrities actually do have an obligation. And I think that we need to keep in mind that the members of other racial groups, they really do feel like they have an obligation. I feel like the black community is literally the only community. We in our community are the only people that really feel like there's no obligation or accountability to our group. Number one, there's not a black celebrity that you can think of that will be successful or in their position if it weren't for the black community. So yes, right now they're being paid by white people, but the white corporations wouldn't really be paying you to endorse their product if it wasn't for the support of your community. LeBron James didn't get to where he's at by himself. Yes, he did get a basketball contract and he did get drafted out of college. That is out of high school, I mean. Yes, he did do that. But the endorsements that he's getting right now is based solely on the fact of the black community supporting him. Because you can best believe if black people, and a high number of them, weren't going to go see LeBron James play basketball games or buying his shoes or other products that he endorsed, if they hadn't shown, if the black community had not shown that they have the support in him and is willing to spend their money on him, he would not have those endorsements. So if it weren't for the black community, LeBron James wouldn't be where he's at, because there's a lot of basketball players who aren't on LeBron James's level. Part of the reason why he is what he is, a very great large part of that, is because of the black community. So to me, it makes no sense that people who supported LeBron James in the black community can be the same ones that says he has no obligation to speak against the issues that affect us. That doesn't even make sense to me. What's happening is the black celebrity like LeBron James and Jay-Z and Beyonce, they're actually being used to funnel money out of the black community and to put it into the white community. That's what's happening. Because you can best believe any money that LeBron James is getting for his endorsements is not more money than the white people are making off of him. So these white corporate owners and these basketball owners, because these are primarily white men owning black men when they own the sports team, you can best believe they are not giving LeBron James more money than he's making for them. So why he isn't considering that is beyond me, because really the power is in the players, not in the owners. They can't do what they're doing without you. So that's number one. Number two, not feeling obligated to speak on the issues actually affects your community. It shows that none of these celebrities actually have a vested interest in their community that they actually came from, because all of these celebrities came from black communities. They did not come from white wealthy communities. However, right now what they're doing with their celebrity, they're actually supporting and showing that they have more of a vested interest in the white community and in the white people that are currently paying them than the black community that they came from. That is problematic. It really is. And the funny thing is that the white community certainly doesn't have a vested interest in the black community. That is obvious. They don't have an interest in the black community beyond bleeding them dry economically. That is literally the only interest that white society has in the black community. The bottom line of it is being associated with black culture right now is trendy. The minute that ceases to be the case, a lot of your black celebrities aren't going to be celebrities anymore. They're only as beneficial as they are needed. And if they're needed, and they're only needed because they're providing more of a benefit to the white community than they are to the black community. And that should be obvious. And if anyone disagrees with that, then they're clearly not paying attention to reality. My thing of it is that in addition to not having a vested interest in the black community, which is interesting to me, is that take Bill Cosby, for example. Whenever white supremacy decides to take a black celebrity and knock them off their high horse, because you're not going to be high forever, guess what they do? Then they go back to the black community and they ask for the support of the black community, although they showed that they had no vested interest in helping them when they were high. Bill Cosby actually did quite a bit for the black community, but he also spoke negatively about the black community constantly. So although he did do things, he also became a mouthpiece for white supremacy. Now that he's in the situation where his celebrity and his money doesn't really matter, now that it can't save him from his situation, what is he doing now? Now he's trying to come to the black community and ask them to support him because he sees that the white community isn't going to support him. This is a fatal mistake that a lot of black people do. Because here is the thing. If LeBron James was actually using his money to actually generate streams of revenues and put money into his community and build businesses that is going to get him revenue and money that wasn't dependent on a white man, then he wouldn't have to sit here and not speak out for whatever reason. Because you guys can come on here and you can say, oh, LeBron James has his kids to think about. He doesn't want to stop his money flow. I don't care what the reason is. Regardless to what the reason is, he is still showing fear in someone else and someone else's control over his livelihood and income. So if he were to actually take his money and open up his own businesses to where he will continue to have residual income, then he wouldn't have to fear a white man taking away the money that they gave him, because that's number one. And then, so number two, what essentially is happening is that he is already showing that I'm backing these corporations that are paying me right now. Although you guys are the reason that I'm actually here, because if it weren't for your support, and if these white corporations didn't see that you guys actually support me, they wouldn't be paying me to endorse their product. Because what's happening is the black community already showed that what they'll do is they'll support any product that LeBron is associated with. These corporations saw that before they decided to write LeBron James any check. So therefore, he is obligated to speak for the community that is supporting him, that essentially put him where he is. So I don't understand why everyone wants to say he's not obligated, or this is something that's bigger than him. You can't put that sole burden on him. Since when is speaking out against injustices that affect your community a burden? Your normal everyday cop doesn't know LeBron James' children from Tamir Rice or Mike Brown. So it doesn't even, so that gives more of a reason why he should be speaking out against it, because his children could very well be one of those children that an officer decides to shoot despite the fact that he's unarmed. So that's more of a reason why he should feel obligated. Everyone in the black community, every celebrity, I don't care who they are, should feel obligated to speak out against these things, because it directly affects you. When you have no more money and you have no more fame, as sure as you are a black person and as sure as you are a black man, you can best believe the white community is not going to continue to support you. The only thing that you're going to have to fall back on is your community. Smart people know this, so they do not isolate and alienate themselves from their community. Only the black community tends to do this. The Hispanic community doesn't do it. The Indian and Asian community doesn't do it. The white community damn sure doesn't do it. They show you every day in every single way that they can that their best interest, that their support is going to their people above you and beyond you. So that's number one. Then if all black, the thing of it is it's a power dynamic. What's going on is that you have a lot of white people owning black people. That's what you have. That's why a lot of them are just high-paid slaves, because at the end of the day, most of your basketball team owners are white men. Most of your basketball teams are predominantly black men. So you still have the same slave dynamic, and not only are they owning them, but then they actually instill fear in this person to a great extent that is literally, to me, the equivalent of a pimp and a hoe, to the point that they already know that they don't have to speak out. Sports and music, for example, are two of the biggest industries that contribute to the success of the American economy. Without black people, black men specifically, these two structures would collapse. And if you think that they wouldn't, then you need to go back and research when they actually had the team segregated, and how they had the Negro League and then they had the White Sports League. The White Sports League wasn't winning. They weren't winning games going against the Negro League. So to the benefit of the white community and to the detriment of the black community, they allowed integration to take place. And they allowed integration to take place because they already saw that it was going to be 100% to their benefit. Not only do they get the black money, but they also get the black players that will play on their team and help them to get popular. The Super Bowl would not be what it was if it weren't for black men. So you can best believe that white people realize in the areas of music and sports, they need black people more than black people need them. But somehow what happened is they've convinced them otherwise. And so the power dynamic is in favor of the white people who own them. Understand that you really need to understand that white people actually need black people more than we need them. It's just that the bottom line of it is because of the mental slavery and the psychological beatings that's been put on the entire black community, somehow black community thinks that we actually need white people for a survivor, despite the fact that America would not be here if it weren't for black people. That's the biggest thing that we're forgetting. America would not be the wealthiest country if it weren't for black people. Black people built America. That's who built America. So without us, there would be no America. really, white supremacy only have power to the extent that we allow them to have it. If all black athletes and musicians moved in solidarity, they would actually shift the power dynamic. If they would understand what their value is to these two industries, then they could shift the power dynamic by simply saying, we're not taking any fines. You can say we're going to get a fine, but how about we just don't play? And then what are you going to do? Because I guarantee you, if they all decide they're not going to play, what can they do? They can't force them to play. So what are they going to do except do what you want them to do? It's a power play. And so that's just what it is. And I don't understand how we don't get that. It's like if black musicians said, okay, have just your white artists then, and we just won't make music. They already have their money, so really they could just keep their money. And then what they could do is say, okay, we're not going to make any music. See how long that lasts. If black musicians decided to not make music, not to do production, not to do anything, do you know how the music industry would crash? White musicians can't carry the music or the sports industry on their own. So they really actually need you. If black athletes actually decided to make their own athletic department, they would actually be far more profitable than the white ones on their own. And you can go back to history and see that. Because I don't care how many different races of people they try to find, you're not going to find an athlete or musicians as a whole that are better than black ones. You just won't find it. They can try, but they won't. Because you can look at it this way. Look at your sports team and see that they're predominantly black. As sure as we're living in a racist America, do you really think if they didn't need black men that it would be predominantly black? It would not be that way. You can look at the corporate work atmosphere to see that. They're only going to keep us in the positions to the extent that they need us. The minute that ceases to be the case, you're going to be replaced and right out of there. That's why they don't mind rotating black athletes, because there's always someone willing to step up and be a coon for a little bit of money or to sell out. That is the very definition when you will take a paycheck and that paycheck can shut you up and get you to stop speaking out on injustices that you already know is going to affect your community. That is the very definition of a slave sellout. And it is definitely showing the world how we can be bought and sold for any amount of money. We will give up our dignity. We will give up our soul as long as you give us a little piece of money. Meanwhile, this group of people know that they need you more than you need them. And that to me is disgusting. As a black person, any of us, we are all obligated to our group. Because at the end of the day, no one has our best interest at heart. The white community doesn't have our best interest at heart. So why are we looking to a group of people thinking that they're going to have our best interest at heart when they're not? Like, it's just that they're not. Why are we sitting there looking for them and trying to define a standard that we should live by based on them? It's like, that doesn't even make any sense to me. Like, the mentality that we have, and that's why I say that it's not just the mentality of a lot of white supremacists, it's the mentality of the black community as well. Because we're looking to try to set ourselves to their standards. What we really need to do is separate ourselves from everything that has to do with what we've been taught by white supremacy. That's what we really need to do. We shouldn't be setting ourselves by their standard or trying to model our behavior off of what they want us to do. We should be setting our standard by our own community, because this group of people that you're trying to model yourself after do not have your best interest at heart. And I don't know how many different ways, shapes, and forms that they can send this message. At this point, you just really don't want to believe it, because it's easier to not believe it than to sit there and take action against it. So the way that you can take action against it is change your mind state. Value your own community above them. Have loyalty. Feel like you're obligated to your community. Because if you're not obligated as a black person, do you think other groups are going to be obligated to your community? Because they're really not. Other people aren't going to be obligated or accountable to help and empower our community. So if our black athletes and our black celebrities aren't, who is then? That's the question, because the mainstream does not hold as much power as our celebrities who are in the limelight. You cannot hold mainstream black people to the same standard that you can sit there and hold a LeBron James or a Beyonce or a Jay-Z to, because they have more power. So seemingly more power. They definitely have more influence. So these people can do a lot more than I could. You know, they can do a lot more than any of my viewers could. They can do a lot more than any of us could, because they have more recognition. They have more influence. So therefore they are obligated. We are obligated. No one else is obligated to us. And having the attitude that we aren't obligated to our community is only going to keep us where we are. There's my rant. I don't want this video to be too long. It's already a little bit longer than I want it to be, but I was really thinking about this situation, and I feel like it's very detrimental. We are obligated to ourselves. If you alienate yourself and feel like you don't have an vested interest in your community, you don't have a vested interest in yourself. And that's just really what it is. And until we get a grasp of that concept, until we realize that we are the only ones that are going to empower us, because it's not anyone else's of any other community's job to do that, that the only person who is going to be obligated to us is ourselves. The only people who should be held accountable for our community is our community. Until we get a grasp of that and realize that, there's no possible way we're going to be able to shift the power structure or change anything about our community. So that's one of the things that needs to happen. It needs to start with us being the powerful force that we are, and us being the threat to society that other groups feel like we are, mainly the dominant group, because you can best believe if you weren't a threat to their agenda, and if you weren't a threat to them, there's no possible way they would spend centuries trying to destroy a group of people that is not a threat to them. So until we change our mentality and learn to love and value our community, funnel our money into our community, every other community should be secondary to ours, really, because we're not even secondary to every other community. The only other communities really only want us to the extent that they can benefit from us. So that's really how we should look at every other group. And we need to love our group above any other group. I'm not saying that you can't value other groups, but you definitely shouldn't value them over your own, because at the end of the day, that is one of the things that is dragging our community down, and it's keeping us enslaved, and it's keeping us in the disenfranchised position that we're in. The empowerment starts from us, and no one else is going to value us until we show that we value ourselves more than anyone else. So hopefully you guys will take that. You will have a good weekend. You will stay safe. You will empower yourself, and really think about this and really try to change your mindset. It's not going to be an overnight process, but I really think that if we start working on our mental state, because you can't change anyone else, but you can change yourself. And sometimes changing yourself will force other people to change themselves if they want to actually work with you. And since the world in America cannot operate without black people, then we really need to learn our value and force them to treat us how we want to be treated. It's just like if you were in a relationship with anyone else, you determine how that person is going to treat you. And if you don't have value for yourself, you're not going to require anyone else to value you. Like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video.